Don't touch the girl's cookies. So, you scooped soup like a poor person. Ah, I'm mad. He wanted her to make him coconut shrimp at 2 a.m.? Oh man, guys, I think I'm going to be the one with the hot take here. Today, you and I are embarking on a journey to answer an age-old question. What is the universal language? Is it science? Is it math? Is it music? People will say a lot of things, but you know what? I think it's food. Now, today, we are going to be embarking on a bunch of stories that center around the theme of, in the name of food, we demand justice. So let's get into it. First story is from the subreddit Off My Chest. Boyfriend, 31-year-old male, woke me, 34-year-old female, up at 2 a.m. to make him dinner. I made him leave instead. I am seriously never dating again. No advice needed, just want to vent, throw away for the usual reasons. So I became official with this guy a couple months ago. He was sweet, kind, funny, gorgeous, the usual stuff. Everything was fine. We'd stay at each other's places, have date nights, general relationship stuff. In short, no red flags, a couple beige ones here and there, but everyone has those. Then came the other night. I feel like whenever I read stories where almost like a foreshadowing or you just know that something bad is going to happen. In my head, I play the sound effect from Law and Order SVU. Dun dun. OP says he's currently having to pick up the slack at his job due to multiple people quitting. We decided to spend the weekend at my place as his roommates can be quite loud and he needed to concentrate on fixing a system at his job so he can remotely work. Friday's fine. We stay in, and in between his working, we do the usual couple stuff. Saturday comes, and something has gone wrong, and the stress is doubled. So he isn't eating anything I make, which is fine. I simply remind him there are leftovers in the fridge. By 11 p.m., he's still working, so I head to bed. I am then startled awake by him at 2 a.m., shaking me, telling me he's hungry now. Confused, I remind him about the leftovers and turn over to go back to sleep, but he gets grumpy and tells me I need to make him something fresh. Now, I'm honestly completely confused and so sleepy while he rattles on about coconut shrimp or something. Still half asleep, I just stare at him as I try to work out what the F is happening. I'm guessing my silence pissed him off as he started having a go at me for not, quote, doing my duty as his girlfriend. That woke me up fully, and I told him to get out of my house. His attitude changed then, and he was apologizing, but I just repeated myself, and eventually he left the room. I followed him, picked up his stuff, put it in a bag, and once again told him to get out. He looked like a deer in headlights. He kept trying to say sorry and hug me, and it was only when I threw his car keys into his arms that he realized I was serious and left. First thing I'm thinking is, wow, Opie's boyfriend must really be hungry. And why didn't he just eat the leftovers in the fridge? Did he really have to wake his girlfriend up at 2 a.m. to make him something then and there? OP continues, this was Sunday morning, it's now Monday night, and I still refuse to speak to him. He's tried calling and texting, but I'm honestly just annoyed and dumbfounded. I know I'll have to speak to him at some point, but I don't want to. He's an idiot. If and when I do speak to him, I'll update. For now, I'm going to bed. So OP does have an update, but before that, all right, let's hash out the timeline, the details. Seems like they've been dating for a few months. OP likes this boyfriend. They're staying at each other's places. Boyfriend is really busy with work, so he didn't eat. And I guess when OP did make food initially early on in the day, he just didn't want it. Then decides to wake her up at 2 a.m. for food. Now, I'm a big foodie, guys. I can relate to being super hungry randomly in the middle of the night, but I don't know that I would wake up my partner to make me something then and there. That seems a little rough. Especially, I'm just imagining that she's super grumpy and grouchy, and she's like, what? You want me to do what now? And what did he want? He wanted her to make him coconut shrimp at 2 a.m.? Let's see a few comments before we jump to the update. First comment, a 31-year-old man shakes a sleeping girlfriend awake because he wants, quote, fresh food in the middle of the night? He's a man-child and not a thoughtful partner. Good for you and tossing him out. Baby boy should have acted like a grown-up and ate the leftovers like you told him to. Grow the F up. I have to agree, it is a big red flag. And a serious note, I think it would set up a little bit of alarm bells if partner is throwing a tantrum at 2 a.m. because I'm not making them coconut shrimp. But it's also kind of silly. I'm wondering in the update, are we gonna see some sort of, I don't know, some sort of dietary restrictional reason that he has this, that he needed that coconut shrimp? Or is it something else? Let's see. Update says, "Holy sweet jeebus." That I love that. I love it when the different OPs have their own little sayings. Holy sweet jeebus. That's the first I've heard that one. That's a lot of notifications. Thank you for your overwhelming support. Glad to know I'm not the only one who thinks this is stupid. Also, to the ones who said I should have just done it or agree with the man child, thank you. I needed a laugh today. Maybe I didn't look down far enough in the comments, but I mean, it's nice if OP, felt like 2 a.m. She's putting on her apron and it's time for her to whip out Master Chef coconut shrimp. That's really nice of her. But who is actually going to be on the boyfriend's side and say you should have made him coconut shrimp? Come on. OP says, on to the update. He came into my job to talk and explain that his friend saw a video of a woman being woken up to cook for a man, and they decided to test it out on their partners as a loyalty test. So my initial judgment of him being an idiot was correct. He was surprised when I broke up with him, but he was calm and accepting, albeit sad. Either way, that's over with. To answer a few concerns, nope, no drugs, just bad judgment. No mental health concerns. Yes, he's stressed, but it's surface stress that'll be fine once his work hires some new people, I'm sure. Honestly, not my concern anymore. You're not wrong, OP. Someone mentioned unconditional love. The relationship was less than 3 months. Chill out. Seriously, though, thank you for even taking the time to read my sleepy ramblings. I'm going to buy myself a nice bottle of wine once I finish work as a thank you to myself for not settling. Until next time. I could really hear OP's tone here. Okay, so she dumped boyfriend over that. I don't think that was too much. I'm on board. I don't know what you call it. Is it the lack of respect or consideration for your partner? I mean, to wake them up at 2 a.m. for coconut shrimp is a little extreme. What's funny to me though is I'm betting that the video that ex-boyfriend now and the friend saw was probably some sort of short clip, TikTok, whatever. We see these a lot. I'm a little doubtful. Some of these videos, there are usually a couple that one person is always asking the person to do something really random at odd times, to drop everything and do it. And then you see in these videos, the other partner is always like, yes, of course I'll do that for you. I'm I'm kind of taking some of those videos with a grain of salt. Yeah, it's super duper sweet, the things that couples will do for each other. Don't get me wrong. But there's a little seed of doubt in me that's wondering, okay, how many of these are fake? You know? Like how many of these are staged? Because how many people can honestly say that not only would they also force their partners to make them coconut shrimp or whatever it is in the middle of the night, but that they would be willing to say yes without any grumblings, without any attitude or sass? Come on. Also, what is this exactly testing? If it's supposed to be a loyalty test, how is loyalty being tested? If you say yes to making coconut shrimp, I feel like this is just a coconut shrimp test at this point, right? It's just, oh, you know what it's like? It reminds me of Chopped Kitchen. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. Chopped Kitchen is a Food Network show. I don't know if they still have the season going on, but basically, each chef, like I think 3 or 4 chefs, I don't remember how many, get, I guess, are given a time period and time crunch to execute kind of like an entree, appetizer dish, and like a dessert, usually under a theme. And they usually have to use, well, they're limited to some ingredients as well. So this sounds more like a chop challenge video than like a loyalty test that's going on. Let's see what the comments say. Another one. After reading story after story on Reddit of women letting men walk all over them, this is incredibly refreshing. I'm so proud of you. Good job. In your shoes, I wouldn't even feel the need to communicate further. Block him. He knows what happened. I do think from the boyfriend's perspective, it was a dumb move. Even if it was a different challenge, right? And it wasn't a wake your girlfriend up at 2 a.m. for food to make you fresh food, I would still question how dumb he is. I mean, you see a video, so your first thought is, okay, let me tell my partner to also do the same thing. Another comment here. F that, don't speak to him. Maybe the next one will be spared the BS if he manages to learn. Let's see if OP actually responded to anything or answered more details. Oh, so a commenter says, so there was a post on Instagram a few days ago last week about a girl that made her boyfriend food from scratch at 2 a.m. and it was coconut shrimp and tostones. Men were praising her to the heavens. I wonder if he saw that video. OP says, wait, what? Lol, actually coconut shrimp? Dear Lord. See, now I'm curious how many men have seen this infamous coconut shrimp video and gone to their spouses or girlfriends or partners and said, randomly in the middle of the night, hey, babe, wake up. Make me some coconut shrimp. I need it right now. And why coconut shrimp? I feel like handling seafood in the middle of the night is not the most appetizing thing. Another comment, any partner that does this sort of loyalty test immediately fails the quote, not being a shitty person test. That's also not even loyalty. That's putting up with being massively disrespected. Someone isn't disloyal because they don't put up with shitty behavior. OP's ex is either the kind of idiot that doesn't think things through or the kind of idiot that tried exerting some control over OP. But either way, their relationship status can be described the same way as the number of brain cells they have. Single. I love this one. You know, the irony is talking about the first story about coconut shrimp actually makes me crave food. Not coconut shrimp, but it just what's the appetite? So, next story is also food related. It's from the subreddit aitih. Am I the a hole for not letting my sister's kids eat my special cookies? There's a chance I may have a hot take on this, guys. I'm a huge foodie. So, when food is on the table, I can't say I'm the most rational person. Quick reminder before we continue with the story. If you guys are also a big foodie like me, don't forget to like this video and smash that subscribe button. It really helps the channel a lot. Thanks, guys. OP says, I, 28-year-old female, have a special recipe for chocolate chip cookies that I only make once a year for myself. I put a lot of time and effort into these cookies, and it's a big deal for me to have them to myself. I usually make a batch and keep them hidden in a container in the pantry. Okay, OP is serious about her cookies. It seems like a huge deal. I really, really want to see what the special recipe is. I'm curious. First questions I have are, is OP only making these cookies once a year because they're that difficult to make and maybe it's just a really time-intensive project? Or or are they just really unhealthy and sugary and maybe more like a once a year treat type of thing? Let's see. Last weekend, my sister, 31-year-old female, and her kids, 6 and 4, came over for a visit. My sister's always welcome, but her kids are very energetic and sometimes a bit too curious for my taste. While they were here, I noticed that my special cookie container was missing. Dun dun. I asked my sister about it, and she admitted that her kids had found the cookies and ate them all. My heart goes out to OP. Can you imagine baking, spending all that time baking, all the effort, all the preparation, the mental anticipation of being able to savor your delicious cookie only to arrive home and they're gone? Not a single crumb to be seen. I would see red. I'm not gonna lie. I would be pretty pissed. And also, what does sister mean by she says that she admitted that her kids had found the cookies and ate them all? That's a little bit irresponsible, no? Because it's not like they were unsupervised. I don't really blame the kids here. I blame the sister for not taking care of her kids and watching them and maybe saying upright, hey, we can't touch these foods yet, or we can't touch your aunt's cookies yet. She's not around. Let me go ask her first. And then maybe we can eat them if she's okay with it. Okay, maybe some people are different. I'm also a little bit weirded out because if I visit a friend's or even a family member's house, I usually ask before I snack on anything or even eat anything. Not because there's a spoken rule about it. I feel like it's more an unspoken thing that you just know. It's like a house guest courtesy where I would just say, hey, can I get a water? Even for water, I'll say that. Hey, can I grab a bottle of water? Not because I don't think they're going to give me permission, but more so just to be courteous, be polite. So I'm a little bit confused on why the kids are just helping themselves to the cookies. Also, how many did they eat? Because they ate them all. OP says, I was upset because I've been looking forward to those cookies for a long time. I told my sister that I was really disappointed and that I would appreciate it if she could make sure her kids don't take things that aren't theirs. She apologized, but she also implied that I was being too uptight about it and that the kids were just being kids. Ah, I literally hate that phrase. Kids just being kids. If kids were just being kids, then the sister was being an irresponsible adult. You don't justify nonsense behavior or inconsiderate behavior just because someone's a kid. Like, that's not a free pass. I think sister really should have said something. I mean, they are her kids, right? She is their guardian. She's responsible for them. Just say, hey, kids, let's wait till your aunt's home. Then we can ask her if we can have any cookies. If not, sister could have just packed her own cookies and snacks for her kids. OP says, now I'm wondering if I was being unreasonable. Should I have just let it go, or was it fair to be upset about my special cookies being eaten without permission? I think it's fair to be upset, right? OP dedicated time, effort, resources to this. She was really looking forward to it. And it's hers, point blank. I don't think just because you allow someone as a house guest into your home that all of a sudden everything is up for grabs, literally. Sister and the kids should have kept their fingers out of the cookie jar. Also, I'm very suspicious on whether if it was just the kids that ate the cookies. Part of me feels like maybe the sister put some of the blame on the kids. That's a possibility because you're telling me these are like amazing cookies and the kids just devoured them all. Really? And the sister didn't have any and it's all the kids' fault? I don't know. It's suspicious. Let's see the comments. First comment, bruh, when I was that young, I had to ask my parents' permission if I could take a handful of peanut M&Ms from a jar that sits on my grandma's living room table that was open for anyone in the house. I feel this. Were you guys like that? As a kid, I would have to ask for permission to get snacks too. Even if it was something I asked my mom for, specific like cookies, like I'll say, hey, can I get some cookies? Hey, can I eat this cake? Whatever it was. Another comment, these could have been stale, generic cookie crumbs from the dollar store. And the answer is still, sis has not properly educated kids to one, stay in proper area, not roam around aunt's house, and two, never, ever, ever steal or eat anything unless it's offered to them. I hate to say it. Some of the comments are saying it was stealing. I think it's theft. We got a case of cookie theft here. I'd be really angry over the cookies, to be honest. But I'm still dying because you could tell how it annoyed OP so much that they're posting about it. I hope that OP eventually shares a photo of the cookies if she makes it again or her recipe because I'm dying to know what the cookie was. So there is an update. OP shares, it's been an hour since my last post. Sorry if I wasn't being specific. Those cookies I make are once a year for memories I had when my father, who passed away in 2017, he made those cookies and helped me bake them when I wanted to become a baker. And he helped me make a lot of things like cake, cupcakes, etc. But those cookies were the best ones and special ones because it was the first thing we baked together. Oh, I can see that the cookies, even beyond how wonderful they must have tasted, held a big significance for OP. I wonder if the sister knew, because if the sister knew what type of cookies and why OP bakes them every year and still allowed her kids to just get in and demolish them, that makes her even a bigger a-hole than I initially thought. And when he passed, every year after that, I kept going to his grave with the cookies and with a photo of him, put it on his grave to sit there and eat the cookies like he's beside me. Oh, and for my sister, her children were never punished for their behavior, and this happened before in one of my family members' homes. But they instead took her son's cake and ate it before the party, and now they're banned from stepping foot in their house. Oh, they're repeat food thieves. Okay, no. It's hard for me to blame the kids because the kids are what, 6 and 4? So they're old enough to know better, but only if sister actually taught them better. Big, huge a-hole, glaring a-hole is sister. How dare she steal those cookies? Not only are they precious memorabilia for OP, but dang, I bet they're delicious too. And is this not a wake-up call? If your children were banned from stepping foot into another family member's homes because they took the son's birthday cake and ate it, not only is it rude and disrespectful, is it not embarrassing? I would be pretty embarrassed to be called out. Over food theft? No, this is a big no for me. My verdict, sister is the huge a-hole here. I don't think OP is in the wrong. It's fair for her to be upset. Most of the comments also agree. And it's not like OP is screaming at the kids or going overboard. She's just sharing that she's upset. And it doesn't seem like the kids learned from their behavior. So I have a feeling it's going to be a repeat thing. Don't touch the girls' cookies. All right, so in this story, we saw a little bit of house guests being rude when it comes to food. But what about when you're eating out? What's restaurant etiquette? So this next story is from the subreddit, Am I the A-hole? Am I the a-hole for my behavior at a buffet? Hi everyone, I, 28-year-old female, recently reconnected with a friend, 27-year-old female, from high school. Let's name her Brenna. We were really close, like think inseparable, but the distance after we moved away inevitably caused our friendship to dwindle. I recently moved to a city with my husband and it was like nothing had changed. After a few one-on-one lunches, she wanted to introduce me to some of her other friends from uni. We decided on an upscale buffet at a hotel. I love buffets. Well, specifically for me, I'm a big seafood buffet gal. Give me the snow crab legs, give me the crawfish. Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. I can go through plates and plates of it. So, shout out to my fellow seafood gals. And also, speaking of the friendship here, I kind of relate to this. I have some friends that I used to see every day when we would, well, go to school together, obviously. But now with life, everyone's working, people moved into their homes, some people travel. We're all a little bit spread out, but it's nice to reconnect and have that feeling of, oh, it's like nothing that ever changed. So I feel that. OP says, I think it's relevant to include that the university she went to was known for its extremely wealthy and privileged students. Coming from an upper middle class background, I wasn't really sure what to expect or what we'd have to connect on, but she assured me it would be okay and that everyone was really down to earth. I got along with everyone really well. The conversations were engaging and we all bounced off of each other really nicely with the banter. She booked it on a Monday afternoon, so it'll be relatively less crowded, so none of us would have trouble communicating. But here's where I think everything went wrong. There was a short queue behind me, 3 people, all in our party, one of whom included Brenna, while I was trying to scoop a stew for myself. It was a minestrone. Is it minestrone or minestrone? I've never had the soup, guys, so I always struggle with saying it. It was a minestrone. I think it's minestrone. You guys will have to correct me if I'm wrong here. It was a minestrone, and I'd accidentally grabbed a scoopful of vegetables instead of soup. So on my second scoop, I decided to do the opposite so that I could get the balance of both. My first scoop hardly contained any soup. I stopped after 2 scoops and turned to see Brenna staring at me with an appalled expression. Okay, 2 things to hash out here. First off, is it just me that perfectly visualized how OP was scooping the soup? Don't you hate it when you're scooping soup, the perfect balance and ratio, there's a perfect ratio for soup, okay? You want enough of the solid chunks. It's almost like, I think it's like a perfect ratio should be like a 2 parts chunks, 3 parts soup. Maybe that's just me. Or maybe 1 part chunk, 3 parts soup. Something like that, where you don't want to just get no soup because then you're just eating raw ingredients, if that makes sense. I don't know. I think there's a ratio for soup, guys. My point here is I see what OP's doing. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, if you want a little bit more soup on the second scoop, what's wrong with that? And it's not like OP is contaminating the rest of the soup for everyone else. They're just simply taking what they want, which isn't that the point of a buffet? You take what you want, and it's also less wasteful that way. This is a weird thing to pick on. When I think of how Brenna's described as being appalled, I'm thinking she's like, like just the audible, like maybe hand to the chest going, like full on gasp. Opie says, I stopped after 2 scoops and turned to see Brenna staring at me with an appalled expression. I was really puzzled, but I kept on walking back to her table so I wasn't blocking anyone's way, and I figured I should ask her about it later. The rest of the lunch, I noticed Brenna acting really strange. She was limiting her interactions with me, avoiding eye contact with me, etc. Is Brenna doing all of this over soup? You know what? If Brenna's acting like this over the fact that OP got 1 scoop of veggies and 1 scoop of liquid soup, I would love to see how she acts on one of those viral videos. I don't know if you guys have seen them. There was a video floating around of people at like a sushi conveyor belt where I think they grabbed the sushi plate and then they like touched it and put it back or something on our conveyor belt. And I thought that's gross because if you're going to touch it, in my opinion, okay, you should have grabbed it for yourself, right? And not touch it with your fingers and then like put it back for everyone else. That's gross. So I'd love to see her reaction to that if she's already weirded out by how OP scoops soup. OP continues. Another friend, 28-year-old male, even asked her about this and she dismissed the question. She said, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, so if her behavior is noticeable enough that someone else is commenting on it, that's telling. After we all said goodbye, I got a series of texts from Brenna saying how disgustingly, quote, low class I acted in front of her friends. I'm sorry, what? Low class? Because she scooped soup. OP continues, I asked her what she meant, and she referred to how I selectively scooped the minestrone in front of her and how it's extremely poor etiquette to pick and choose portions at a buffet. I tried explaining to her that it was an accident and I hadn't intentionally tried to do what she was explaining, but she said I was still holding up the line. I apologized for that and she hasn't responded since. OP is really nice. I could never. First off, say that Brenna was really put off by OP's behavior with the soup scooping and, as she calls it, what is it? Picking and choosing portions, which is a buffet. Is that not what you do? You self serve, you pick the serving that you wish to have. But also, what does this have to do with class? I think it's more telling that Brenna's the one who probably is a little bit uppity, probably has some sort of complex with being superior or has that holier than thou attitude. I think it's really disgusting how she's calling OP low class or her behavior low class. OP says, I apologized to the two other people that were waiting behind me, but they didn't know what I was talking about. I explained to them what Brenna saw, and they said she's being a quote, pompous ass, and told me to forget about it. Now, I have no idea what to feel because I initially felt extremely guilty when Brenna confronted me, but hearing these two say it's no big deal is really making me wonder. I would love some other opinions. Thanks. Ah, I'm mad. Dump Brenna. This is a friendship breakupable moment. I mean, are they really friends if Brenna is inwardly, well, not so secretly anymore, looking down on OP? All the other friends and even the other two people in the line didn't have an issue with OP's behavior. What's Brenna's beef? What did she lose out on from OP's behavior here? I get it. If OP's out here looking at each individual piece of veggie and really inspecting them and putting it back, that's a little off putting. It's a little bit weird. But all she's doing is realizing, oh, first scoop didn't have enough soup. Let me give myself more soup, is what it is, right? And then she brought class into it. No, I think Brenna was looking for excuse. I think she already thought that OP's behavior was low class or associated her with that mindset. And so when she saw something that she didn't like, she just kind of jumped on it and clung to that. What's that phrase? If you're a hammer, everything looks like nails. I think OP was a nail and Brenna was a hammer looking for something to smack down. Let's take a look at the comments. So, you scoop soup like a poor person. You hear how ridiculous that sounds? Brenna is a pompous snob. Simple as that, not the a-hole. I agree. Okay, when you say it out loud like that, it's even weirder. She accused her friend of scooping soup like a poor person. Another comment, oof. Superiority complex much? Not the a-hole. It's a buffet, not a Michelin star restaurant. And as someone who has a partner that ran a 6-star hotel restaurant in Dubai, oh, okay, flex commenter, okay, you go, girl. I can tell you that there is no buffet etiquette. You get what you want and sit down. It's the entire point of being self-serve. Even if she didn't approve of your mannerisms, her vocabulary is very telling. You can talk to a friend about behavior without bringing the classes into it. I'm going to take a somewhat educated guess and assume no one else cared. Your friend went out of her way to find fault and make you feel inferior over a very small scenario. Tell her to stop being a human donut and take her head out of her arse. Oh, I love that phrase. Stop being a human donut. I'm adding that to my catchphrases and my vocabulary now, guys. I have to agree with the comments here. I can't see any part of OP's actions being anywhere near the classification of you're the jerk. Brenna, on the other hand, though, is really proving that she isn't a friend and probably doesn't have OP's best interests. I wonder if she chose an upscale buffet with all of her more bougie friends on purpose, even to kind of show the disparity between OP and herself. Because you're telling me you guys have had one-on-one lunches and OP's already been concerned on, hey, I'm not wealthy like your other group of friends. We might not have much to connect on. And Brenna decides, you know what? Let's all of us, including my bougie friends, go to this super upscale buffet, apparently. and eat together. Where Brenna then is going to call kind of a spotlight on OP's very small action of scooping soup, it feels a little bit like it could have been a setup. So, in response to a comment, not the a hole, it's not like you stood there for 5 minutes picking out only beans out of the effing soup. You didn't do anything wrong or weird, perfectly acceptable to balance out your soup. That's right, balance out your soup, girly. OP says, the beans are the worst part. Thanks for the input. What is the worst part of soup? I don't want to say I'm picky with soup. I'll love like a noodle soup. I love that. I also love egg drop soup, if you guys have had that. Or like a bean curd soup or seafood bean curd soup. Love those. I'm not a huge fan of peas. I have to say, peas in soup is not my favorite. But I also wouldn't pick them out either. Although, if I'm getting a big scoop of soup and there's too many peas, I will be balancing it out with more soup, like more liquid. Alrighty, guys. Speaking of food making waves in the relationship, our next story is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole? Am I the a-hole for not making my partner food when I made food? I have some thoughts on this already. In a partnership, there are certain things that you have unspoken agreements about, and food is one of them. For example, if I'm making dinner or fixing a snack for myself, I would also ask my fiance, I'll say, hey, babe, I'm making this. I'm making dinner, or I'm making some rice, or I'm getting some seaweed salad. Do you want any? And usually, depending on his mood, he'll say yes or no, and I'll get him some too because it's really no big deal to me to just fix an extra portion of something if I'm already doing it. And then also, why not? I think it's a nice thing to do to feed your partner, give them food. Like, I think it's nice. Conversely, I think I would feel a little bit hurt if my partner was, I don't know, ordering a whole seafood boil or fixing himself a steak. And then he doesn't say anything. Not that he needs to ask for permission, but he doesn't say anything. And then I go and I just see him munching away and feasting away. I would feel a little sad. It's not even like the food at that point. It's more like, well, okay, it is about the food, but also it's that consideration aspect of, I want you to think of me when you did this, if that makes sense. All right, let's see what the story is with OP. OP says, I originally thought this was no big deal, but now I'm second guessing myself. Yesterday, my partner, 23-year-old male, went out for dinner with his friend. And I, 22-year-old female, had the idea of preparing some food for myself. I was thinking of making some sort of barbecue, marinated tofu. And I mentioned something about how I would experiment with tofu or something like that while driving him to the restaurant, and that there might be an experiment waiting for him at home. He didn't seem very interested and responded fairly non-committedly. So I thought that if I made enough, I could set aside a portion for him whenever he got back. But since he didn't seem that interested, no big deal. Ooh, I've had a bit of a tofu kick lately, guys. Recently, I've been making myself miso soup at home. So easy to make. Just get I don't know what you call it, like the miso itself. You boil some water, you add some miso to it. You chop some soft tofu, you add that in. It is so good. Or if you're not a soft tofu girly, having some crispy tofu really adds a nice texture to the soup. So good. All right, back to story. OP says, the catch is we're in the middle of moving and some of the ingredients are at our other place. While stopping by there to grab what I needed, I ran into a mutual friend / roommate of ours who happened to also be hungry. They suggested coming back with me to the other place and having some food as well. And I had no problem with it, so I said sure. We ended up cooking some barbecue tofu, nothing special. The food was ready right around when my partner called, asking me to pick him up and his friend up. In a hurry to meet them, our mutual friend and I just basically divvied up what we made into 2 bowls, wrapped them up, and brought them with us. My partner didn't seem to care when they noticed the food we had. After we got back home, while my partner was in the shower, I decided to make some food. On the drive back home, my partner had mentioned he wasn't hungry, so I figured I didn't need to ask and cooked some plain pasta and added some jarred pomodoro sauce to it. Ooh, okay. This post has me craving some pasta too. When my partner saw the food, he asked me why I didn't ask him if he wanted some before starting to make the food. I replied that he said he wasn't hungry, but if he wanted, I could make more pasta. He said it was normal in his family to ask if someone wanted a portion before they started making something, and he was upset that I made meals twice in the day without caring to ask or save some for him. He also said that when I had said, quote, there might be an experiment waiting for you when you get back, he assumed that I would save a portion for him. Oh, I Okay, so far, I really don't think this is a serious couple spat. It's a little silly, but I also get it. I'd be kind of sad too if my partner made food but didn't save any for me. But then again, okay, there could be miscommunication because if OP asked, and depending on how partner was okaying it, was he uninterested? Like, oh yeah, I guess if you have some tofu, I'll have some. Or was he more like, okay, cool. I think some expectations for him getting a portion of the yummy barbecue tofu was set, even if it didn't come across as super enthusiastic about it. OP continues, I thought he wouldn't care since the first time he was already out getting food with his friend, and the second time he said that he wasn't hungry earlier. When I brought this up to him, his response was, quote, that was an hour ago. And he said I should have asked regardless. Oh man. Oh man, guys. I think I'm going to be the one with the hot take here. I would be the boyfriend. An hour is a long time ago. That's like a whole separate mealtime, guys. Just ask. Ask your partner because you guys have been living together. You guys probably have some routines together. I think it's nice to just ask. Admittedly, when he called to request a pickup, I was just focused on quickly packing up and getting to the car and forgot in my haste to set aside a third portion. At the start of this, I thought you didn't need to ask before making yourself food if others wanted any. But now I'm not really sure. I'm kind of terrible at telling how to behave in situations like this, and the way I grew up certainly did not encourage asking about food. Am I the a hole? How do I make this right? I have some sympathy for OP here because I guess it's also a culture thing. I guess in my house, it was always expected that you would have a portion, if that makes sense. Even my mom, when it comes to food, she would ask, hey, do you want anything? And so I guess I also adopted that personality in my relationships and in my friendships as well. I'm always the person to say, hey, I have some of this food, or I have a snack, I have some Pocky, whatever it is. Do you want some? Hey, I got a cake, whatever it is. So it does come as second nature to me. I can see how it might be weird to someone who's either used to living a more solitary lifestyle or is used to kind of everyone in the household doing their own thing and doing their own meals. So I see that too. Ah, I think OP is soft, very slight, very soft, very slight a hole. Only because you're with your partner and you did say you would bring him some and then you ended up forgetting. And instead of owning up to it, you just kind of say, oh, you weren't that enthusiastic. I didn't think you cared. Especially because she said it. That's a little, and even then preparing food and not asking about it, I think that makes you a soft a hole in the relationship. But I don't think this is anything huge or something to blow up over. I think a little bit of conversation, a little bit of just consideration of being, my bad, babe. I'll ask you next time. Something like that would go a long way here. Honestly, I do think boyfriend is throwing a little bit of a he might be pouting a little bit over the food. Oh, let's look at some of the comments. First comment, not the a-hole. Your boyfriend's being an ASS. He went out to dinner and you made food for yourself. When a friend came by, obviously you shared. Boyfriend interrupted your meal and it didn't get eaten. If boyfriend had been present, you would have offered him food. If he were working late and you knew he would be coming home hungry, you would set food aside for him. You do not save food for someone who went out to dinner. By the way, did he invite you out to dinner alongside with his friend? OP responds, he did not, although in fairness to him, the person that he went to eat with isn't a mutual friend of ours. I don't have issues with this person and we're nice to each other when we see each other, but he's my partner's friend, not mine, if that makes sense. Actually, I might revise some of my opinion a little bit. It's all a communication issue, to be honest, less of a food issue, more of a communication issue here. Because if they had a conversation before boyfriend went out that he would get an experimental portion of the barbecue tofu, I'm thinking, yeah, he's going to expect a portion of tofu when he gets back, right? Because they had that conversation. That being said, when she made pasta again for dinner and didn't include him, I think she should have said something because then that's another meal and he was home for that and she was home for that. So I get it. I think depending on kind of which aspect you're focusing on and which meal you're focusing on, it can be rough. I think it was just a little miscommunication here, to be honest. I do have to disagree with the comment where it says you don't save food for someone who went out to dinner. Maybe I'm weird, but me and my partner will do that for each other. Like we'll save a little bit, or we'll set aside, or we'll talk beforehand and say, hey, did you want some of this? I'll be making this. But that could also be because we're super foodies. Oh, we got another comment. I'm sure your boyfriend brought you home dessert from the restaurant, right? Right? Well, why wasn't he thinking about you? Not the a hole, of course. I have to also agree with this comment. Boyfriend, you can turn it back on the boyfriend as well. Boyfriend, hello, why didn't you bring me dessert from that dinner that you had from the restaurant? I honestly think this is a really silly miscommunication issue on both their parts. Maybe OP is like a super chef. And when she was talking about that yummy, really delicious barbecue tofu she made earlier in the day, and then the pasta that she's making later, maybe boyfriend was just internally, and he's super non-expressive for all we know. Maybe he's just like, yeah, I was looking forward to it. And then to not have it, and that's why he's pouting. Maybe. Maybe she's like Master Chef level. Okay, let me revise. I think they're both very soft a-holes in different aspects of the story. OP for not, I guess, sticking to what she said that she would give him a portion of the tofu, and also not asking beforehand if he wanted any food. And then boyfriend for really throwing a huge hissy fit over it and not saving her dessert from the restaurant. There, that's my verdict. You guys will have to let me know what you think. I feel we're going to be a little bit split on this, guys, but that's okay. We can all have different opinions. Our last story for this episode is a little bit of a silly one. I don't know, maybe this is the trend where the last story is where it always gets a little wonky. This story is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole? Am I the a-hole for planting a mushroom in my roommate's dirty dishes to make a point? This smells of sabotage and dirty dishes. Opie says, I, 25-year-old male, have a roommate, Jake, 26-year-old male, who has a serious issue with leaving dirty dishes in the sink. We've had several discussions about this, but nothing changes. The mess was getting out of hand and was really starting to affect my mental state. I have to say, I'm sometimes guilty of leaving dirty dishes from lunch and then cleaning up like before dinner. It's bad. You shouldn't be leaving dirty dishes. Sometimes I am guilty of this as well. But leaving it long term, like long term, that's a big no-no. To the point where your roommate's complaining about it. Dude, how many dishes are we talking here? OP says, last week I decided to take a more extreme approach to make my point. I found a mushroom growing outside and decided to plant it in one of the dishes that had been in the sink for a couple weeks. I thought maybe seeing actual fungus growing in his dishes would make him realize how bad things had gotten. Wait. You know what? Sometimes problems require creative solutions, and this is definitely one of them. I have so many questions for OP. How did he actually plant this fungus? Did he just literally grab a mushroom that was growing outside and just chop it up and just plop it on one of the plates and go, oh my gosh, there's a mushroom here. You've been leaving the place for so long, mold is growing. Is that what he did here? That's what I'm picturing. OP continues, I didn't mean to cause any drama, but Jake's girlfriend ended up finding the dish first. She was horrified, and the situation led to a big argument between them. Apparently, this incident made her realize how much of a slob Jake is, and it ended up being a breaking point for their relationship. I'm sorry, I really shouldn't laugh. Someone broke up over the mushrooms, but I really shouldn't laugh. You know when they talk about the butterfly effect, where something really small can have significant impact? This is what I think of. The freaking mushroom was a butterfly. What are the odds that of all people to find the dishes in the mushroom, that it's Jake's girlfriend would find it first? And then they would have an argument that leads to a breakup over it. So indirectly, you could say OP was the breaking point of their relationship. OP says, now Jake is furious with me, blaming me for his breakup and calling me a jerk for creating such a situation. I really didn't intend for things to escalate like this, but at the same time, his habits are disgusting and need to change regardless of whether his dishes are fertile ground for portobellos. I can't believe this. The mushroom caused the breakup. The mushroom's the culprit. OP says, I feel bad about it, so I texted his girlfriend to explain that it was just a joke, but she's had it with him and seemed to be done whether it was real or not. I'm worried this is going to ruin my friendship with Jake, but at the same time, don't really feel it's all on me. Our friends seem to be siding with him so far. A-hole or no? On one hand, it is really hard to argue that OP had nothing to do with the situation. But I think it is a huge case of bad coincidence. How is he to know? How is OP to know that him planting a mushroom there would cause this whole chain of events? There's no way for him to know. And I'm glad that he did text to clarify with the girlfriend. Based on what the girlfriend said, I think it proves that OP isn't the a-hole after all. Because if girlfriend, even knowing the truth, is like, well, I'm done with him, whether or not the mushroom was real, that speaks volumes about where Jake and his girlfriend's relationship was already at. So, Jake, it's on you, dude. Should have cleaned the dishes, should be less of a slob. Maybe you would have saved the relationship. I'm just really curious to see what this mountain of dishes look like with the mushroom. Sometimes I wish people on Reddit included a photo of the situation because it would just be so nice to see and kind of put the words to the image. OP's not the a-hole. What do you guys think? Let's see first comment, not the a-hole. I found a mushroom growing outside and decided to plant in one of the dishes that had been in the sink for a couple weeks. Okay, I missed that. So the dishes were there for a couple weeks. Comment says, that's disgusting. This is on him. She broke up with him because she reached critical mass over him being an unrelenting, unrepentant slob. That was a pretty creative solution you came up with there. You should probably find a new roommate as soon as you're able. Whatever happens with the friendship, he isn't going to change anytime soon. Cool, our friends seem to be siding with him so far. Easy to do if they aren't living in a dumpster because of his habits. I'm kind of surprised why their friends are on Jake's side. But it could also be because they're only hearing from Jake that, oh, because of his praying, my girlfriend broke up with me. And they're not seeing the full story of, no, Jake's girlfriend already had it with him and this was the final straw. So it seems like it was inevitable that they were probably going to break up sooner or later, mushroom or no mushroom. Another comment, not that you didn't end this relationship, he did. I'm sure Jake's girlfriend gave him many chances and reached the end of her rope. If he continues on his current path of being a slob and blaming other people for the consequences of his actions, his past will be littered with people who are just done with him. Also, folks tend to take the path of least resistance. It's easier to put pressure on the reasonable person, you, than an unreasonable person, Jake. But you're not at fault here. Great idea with the mushroom, by the way. I have to applaud OP's mushroom idea. It kind of proved OP's point though, the mushroom. How bad does it have to be that your roommate feels compelled to plant a mushroom to make you change your ways? Or that your girlfriend is just about had it with you? How bad, Jake? Jake needs to wake up here. You know, I've seen a lot of movies where food fights happen. Typically, it's in a cafeteria and people are slinging food at each other. But these stories really showed me all the different ways that food causes a fight. We've had a relationship breakup over a mushroom. We've had fights and serious talks over food between siblings and friends. I think it just goes to shows the impact and power of food, guys. I think it just cements my point. Food is the universal language because while it can pull people together, it can also tear people apart. And if you guys like listening to stories like these, let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like this video and smash that subscribe button. Thanks, guys. I'll see you in the next one.